There's a certain kind of love that never announces itself. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it doesn't even ask to be seen. It simply exists, quietly, like a candle burning in a room where no one enters anymore. The kind of love that doesn't need to be returned to remain alive. The kind of love that breathes through glances, through the space between words, through the pauses in conversations that never happened. If you've ever loved in silence, you know that this kind of love feels both sacred and cruel at once. It's a devotion that no one rewards, a loyalty no one recognizes. And yet, you can't stop. Because it's not about winning someone. It is about what you become in the act of loving. To love in silence is to walk through the world with a secret heartbeat. You smile when they speak, even when they speak about someone else. You memorize the tone of their voice without realizing it. You remember insignificant details, how they hold a cup, the way they breathe before laughing, and then pretend you don't. You train yourself to hide the way your chest tightens when they talk about their plans, their dreams, their love life that doesn't include you. You stay quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you know that saying it would change everything, and maybe ruin the little you already have. People often mistake this silence for weakness, but in truth, it takes enormous strength to love someone without claiming them, to care without possession, to stand close without crossing the invisible line. Those who love in silence are not cowards. They are protectors of something fragile, something that might die the moment it's named. Words, after all, have a way of breaking the spell. And so you stay quiet because silence, in some twisted way, is the only thing that keeps the connection alive. Psychologically, silent love is tied to a deep sensitivity. People who love this way often have experienced rejection or emotional neglect early in life. They learned that expressing desire brings loss, that being too visible leads to pain. So they turn inward. They feel deeply, but show little. Their emotional world is vast, yet locked behind self-control. They don't confess, not because they don't want to be loved back, but because they believe that love, once spoken, becomes something else. Something fragile, exposed, no longer pure. It's not just fear that keeps them silent, it's reverence. The feeling is so rare, so profound, that words feel too small, too vulgar to contain it. Silence becomes their temple, their form of worship. Every unspoken thought becomes an offering. Every withheld message, a prayer. They'd rather suffer quietly than risk contaminating something that, in their mind, exists beyond the reach of ordinary love. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing that one more step could either lead to flight or fall. That's what loving in silence feels like. You live in that suspended moment, between hope and resignation. You build whole conversations in your mind. You replay moments that lasted seconds, as if they were entire lifetimes. You try to convince yourself that it's enough to just feel, that love doesn't have to be returned to be real, and sometimes you almost believe it. There's also a strange peace in it, because silence, unlike words, can't be rejected. No one can turn down what they never heard. It's a shield against humiliation, against the shattering honesty of a no. But over time, that shield becomes heavy. You start wondering if protecting yourself so well has also kept you from living fully. If maybe by guarding your heart, you've also buried it. Loving in silence often becomes a way of keeping control in a world where love feels uncontrollable. It gives structure to longing. It lets you feel without consequence. But the cost is invisible. You remain half alive. You live in possibility, not reality. You replay moments that never happened. You fall asleep thinking about someone who doesn't think of you. You write imaginary letters and burn them before they ever exist. And yet, there's beauty in it too, because silent love teaches you to see people as they are, not as you need them to be. It teaches patience, humility, restraint. It refines your emotions into something almost spiritual. In that silence, you start learning the hardest lesson of all, that love is not ownership, not reciprocity, not reward. It's presence. It's witnessing someone's existence and saying without words, I'm grateful that you are. But one day, there's a quiet realization. You wake up and understand that silence, too, can become a prison. That protecting a feeling from the world is not the same as protecting yourself. That maybe, just maybe, love isn't meant to be hidden. It's meant to move, to breathe, to be shared, even if it breaks. Because love that never risks expression eventually dissolves into nostalgia. And nostalgia, no matter how poetic, cannot hold your hand. That's the paradox of loving in silence. It preserves the feeling, but kills the experience. You end up cherishing a ghost, the idea of love, not the reality of it. And deep down, you start craving something louder. Not because you want drama, but because you want to be heard, to exist inside someone else's awareness. The mind of someone who loves in silence is a battlefield between dignity and desire. They want to stay composed, but every cell in their body aches to be known. They convince themselves that their silence is noble, but sometimes it's simply fear, wearing a mask of grace. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what being human means, to keep trying to balance between what the heart wants and what the mind allows. Still, there's a moment, quiet but inevitable, when something inside begins to whisper, you've done enough loving alone. It doesn't mean the love disappears. It just changes form. It stops being a silent offering and becomes a quiet self-forgiveness. You begin to realize that the love you gave without words was never wasted because it taught you how deep your heart could go. It's in that realization that the transformation happens, when you stop waiting to be seen and start seeing yourself. When you understand that loving in silence was not just about another person, it was about discovering the depth of your own capacity to feel. You didn't lose anything. You just reached a place where love no longer needed to hide. Maybe silence was never the problem. Maybe it was the teacher. It taught you that love, even when unspoken, changes you. That it's possible to give without reward, to care without recognition, to stay soft in a world that often hardens. But now, you know, silence served its purpose, and it's time to speak, not to demand love, but to live it. So if you're someone who loves in silence, remember this: you're not invisible. You're just carrying a light in a place most people are too afraid to look. But even the quietest hearts deserve to be heard. And maybe the bravest thing you'll ever do isn't to stay silent. It's to whisper, softly but finally, I love you. And let the world answer however it may. Because love, real love, is not about control. It's about presence. And sometimes, the most beautiful sound in the world is the silence that comes right before the truth is finally spoken. If these words found you where words rarely reach, leave a dot in the comments. It's enough. Someone will understand.